5 o'clock, I forgot to turn on the mic there. YouTube just saw that too. YouTube, the fan YouTube page for me and my face. If you guys want to see my face, you guys are all up on my face. Rick Venturi in a second will join us too. Hootie tickets coming up too for the show this summer. What did I say? August 19th, a little bit earlier. Thank you, Live Nation. Kyle, Christian, Jimmy, you guys are the best. Thank you. Steel Panther tickets we got to give away too. I see Tim Allen's coming in here, too, to be funny from the state of Michigan. Tony mentioned that I need to interview Tim Allen about how much I hate Michigan. It was not a good sports weekend overall. IU won. Notre Dame's into the Final Four in college football. But otherwise, it was kind of a stinker. Boilermakers got run out of the stinking gym known as Chrysler Arena in the armpit of the state of Michigan. Butler looked terrible. Offensively, Pacers, Sacramento, Colts. Yeah, overall, not that great. Hey, by the way, Purdue, Auburn, Music City Bowl. In case you guys missed that at all. I think that's the same weekend as the Colts are down in Tennessee. Hey, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, most important segment you hear all week long, and we got a lot to talk about. Rick Venturi on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline is always brought to you by the District Tap on the north side. You can catch your stuff segmented, offense, defense, and then some online at Colts.com. All right. Help me out here. I swear to you, we laughed. We laughed in the first half. In that first meeting here a couple of weeks ago, when the Colts, they were doing whatever they wanted against that Jacksonville defense. Whatever. What has happened in the last 6 quarters to get us to the point where we are now?
Well, I tell you what happened. It started in that second half, obviously, but yesterday was even different. Basically what they did, from in the last 6 quarters is they have totally shut the run down. I mean, absolutely shut it down. They've stuffed our middle. We can't block Campbell. There's no question about it. We just can't block him wherever he is on the running game. And so that was stuffed. What did we go, 16 for 41 yesterday, and it was the same thing in that last game in the second half. But where they were really different yesterday, is they resembled, and I've been talking about it, they resembled tactically the team that they were a year ago. And by that I mean, John, they got up in our face. They got into press coverage across the board. When they weren't in press, when they were off, they were playing matchup underneath. So they were closing windows. They were stuffing our receivers. And they have the ability, because of the greatness that is Ramsey, they have the ability to play Hilton one-on-one. And even though T.Y. thought battled his ass off, but he wasn't going to get much. He just wasn't, because he every catch he got, other than when they moved him inside, he paid for it. And what they were able to do by going back to their man free, and this is where they were so good a year ago, but with Boye out for a long time, and then the thought that Ramsey might be out, they have been playing a lot more zone, and they've been tremendously vulnerable in terms of pass on first down, play actions, crossing routes, basic outs, things that have just absolutely, destroyed them. And this week they said no more. And by doing that, what they were really able to do, when you really study the film, is they were able to buy their rushers one more step. And I've always known this, and I've always believed in this, that, people talk about the pass rush makes the coverage. But if your coverage is tight through the rhythm of the play, and that quarterback has to hold it just a little bit, not necessarily hold it like we used to think forever and ever, but just hold it a count, all of a sudden that buys time for somebody to get there. Ngakwe's true sack, was kind of a second effort sack. I mean, Campbell's true sack was a second effort sack. And that's because he had to hold the ball. There was no separation anywhere. Nobody could get off the press. They did a really good job on Ebron. They didn't let him breathe. And so, they bought themselves a little bit of time. Now, actually, the best rushes came on the sack that wasn't a sack, when Ngakwe beat the hell out of Costanza over the top, which is 2 weeks in a row that's happened, and we've gotten by without a sack because it was a defensive hold. But Ngakoue ran right by him over the top, just like the guy did last week from the Dolphins, Quinn. And then, of course, the inexcusable free sack at the end. But I think it all started with their aggressive change here and say, okay, we're going to get up. We're not going to fear Hilton. We're going to play him one-on-one. We're going to play everybody across the board one-on-one, and we are going to just stuff this team. And then we make 5 critical, to me, just absolutely critical errors, including decisions, dumb plays, different things that gave them the opportunity. This was a team that came into the game emotionally bankrupt and offensively bankrupt. This was a team that you had a chance to go in if you were ready to play and you did things right early. This was a game that you could have broken their will very quickly in this game. But you allowed them to breathe. You gave them 5 lifelines, and I'd like to go through them. They get 5 lifelines in this game that absolutely killed them. And, generally, before I go specific, it really comes down to our signature people, from the head coach to the quarterback to the offensive unit that has been playing so well and statistically was good. They had a bad day. It was an awful day. There was no question about it. Our signature failed us. And even though, some people want to canonize our defense, and when you only give up 2 field goals, it's a real good job. But in a couple of situations, that could have been better. But basically, our signature, the offense, and Frank Reich had his first really bad day as a head coach. We can say what you want, and I know everybody loves bravado. We've heard this. We heard this after the first Houston game. But we've pissed 2 games away, okay? We've pissed 2 games away with fourth down nonsense. And I know I keep reading about all these wonderkins we have over there, the analytics guys and all that. Well, sometimes you have to play just common sense football, and you got to be smart about what you're doing. I mean, when you go into that game yesterday, if anybody thought that Cody Kessler was going to light it up, the guy's old for a career, okay? They're going to make sure that he doesn't lose the game. That's how they play anyway. And so, when you go down there that first time, kick the field goal, get ahead. When I was in New Orleans, we played 2 great teams in the early 2000s. We had the Rams and we had the Bucks. But we went in thinking totally different, and our players thought totally different. The Rams, we knew were going to get 35 for breakfast, then we told our team every time that ball crosses our 40, we're in 4-down territory, because if we can steal a possession, we're going to steal it. So just get your mind on it. We're going to gamble every time, because threes won't win it. Now, when we played the Bucks, who were a very good team but low scoring, then it was different. If we got down there, we'll take every point we can get. And really, to get the lead on these guys was critical. But here's what broke down. Here's the 5 lifelines that we gave them that then turned it into the biggest disaster, I think, since the 89 New Year's Eve game, which is probably before your time. But when we went in 9-6 to go into playoffs, and we lose down in New Orleans 41-6. The older fans will be able to tip you off on that.
I remember. Yeah,
it's one of the worst games in history because of the circumstances. The circumstances create the bad game. But the first thing that happened is we make a good play right off the bat on defense. Autry, who had a great game, great game individually, knocks the ball out. We get a turnover, just what you want to start the game. So then we get the ball. And right off the bat, Nelson gets whiffed, just gets beat like hell inside, and they're running Luck down. So Luck's running to the perimeter to get away from it, but then he makes an absolute ridiculous play for a premier quarterback. There's 2 guys back there. There's no way you're going to throw it. You're in their territory, and he throws it not just to one guy, but to 2 guys. And, of course, Hayden comes up with an absolute easy interception. Well, so now all of a sudden, as a defense, that's one big lifter emotionally. When all of a sudden you had a sudden change, there's a few situations, and I'm going to hit them because they're emotionally as big as the actual play if you've been in the arena. The first one is an emotional changer. When you get a sudden change and all of a sudden you not only stop them for a field goal, you take the ball away. That is amazing. That's just a very, very bad decision. Then we get down there and we have a 3rd and 2 early in the game, and we go like real quick, like we come up, this was the cute day yesterday. All the cute plays on short yardage, all of them rejected, and I hate that. It's 3rd and 2. Settle down. Call the play you want. Execute. We get up there and try to hurry. We run a toss crack. Campbell rips 2 guys. Those 2 linebackers come flying into that sweep, just like you knew they would, and we end up not making it. So that's another one. You stop somebody in a short yardage situation, that is a lifter. Then we're driving the ball. We get down there, and we get down there in that 4th and 2. 4th and 2 right there. Okay. Obviously, we hit the field goal, but you get the penalty, so you keep dealing them up because you're still looking at a chip shot. So you get down there in 4th and 2. Again, know who your quarterback is. Know what their emotion is going to the game. Take the points. Don't prove. I just don't get it. I mean, I don't. You're doing low percentage stuff, and then you run a shovel, which again is a cute play. It's everything has to be right. It can look great. But if one thing goes wrong, and Ngakoue made a great play, he started to bite, but he didn't bite totally on the outside, and he comes back and stops you. And trust me, John, I'm talking about emotional lifts. Nothing emotionally picks up a football team defensively than a stop inside the 10, a goal line stand, if you will, even though it was one play. That was absolutely humongous for them mentally. Now we come back, and it's 4th and now it's 4th and 1. Now we're about the 35 to 37. So I don't argue with that decision to go for it, because when you're on the fringe like that, to me it's a long field goal. There's no sense to punt. A fringe 4th and 1, I'm always for. I think that's a high percentage play. But then we run a speed sweep. I know we got by with it once. That's a terrible play call. Here comes 85 lumbering around the edge. Those 2 linebackers, they hit him 5 yards in the backfield. Not only stop the play, they force a fumble. And again, a 4th and 1 stop. Emotional lift. And then the final one is a defensive one. At the end of the second quarter, we got them stopped. I mean, they've told Kessler by now, do not screw this game up. Hand the ball off. Do not throw the ball downfield. Check it down. We'll try to run for it. If we have to punt 50 times, we will, because we're going to shut these guys out. That's the kind of confidence they had in the middle of the second quarter. So, they're getting a little bit of a drive going, not much, but they're moving it a little bit. He scrambles for a first down. And now we get them like on their, we get them like on the 40-yard line. It's like 3rd and 13. And we line up in a prevent. We line up with the guys back 13 yards, which I hate. I don't know why people do that. You tell the other team exactly what you're in. To me, it's just absolutely silly. And they hit Moncrief coming across. Moncrief catches the ball, uncontested. Now he's got blockers in front of him. He runs to the edge. They make a first down, then they run it for 9, and they kick a field goal. They do that twice in the game, and in this game they only needed 6 points. So, I mean, you want to talk about lifting a quarterback when he gets something like that, even when they're not any good. So, basically we gave them a lifeline, and then they basically, from the rest of it, they just really basically kicked our offense's ass.
It did. But was it more... Was it more about their defense and what they have done over 6 quarters, or the lack of offensive Colts execution? What's it more about here? Or play calling, too?
That's always a good question, but I think they dominated us, John. I think they dominated. I think it was, our warts came out. We got under pressure. We've been talking about, we've lacked anybody besides Hilton at the other wide receiver, and there wasn't an ounce of separation anywhere. In this team, usually if you play a straight-up man-to-man across the board, usually it's hard to do that because Hilton will tear you a new one like he's done. and like I think he could do versus the Texans, even though they're a good team. But in this game, with as long as we left Hilton over there on Ramsey, then they could play him one-on-one. He's going to catch a couple balls. He ain't going to catch much because we may dislike Ramsey and all that stuff, but he is a premier player, and he proved it yesterday. I just think they manhandle us, to be honest with you. I really do, and we could never get the continuity. Again, we made bad decisions. Like I said, the first fourth down is crazy. The last fourth down is just inexcusable. The one going in, you had to go there. But, I mean, for Costanzo to miss that and to not be aware of that is just ridiculous. So, this was, I think, you give Jacksonville the credit. I think you get a little nervous because in some ways what happens is this is a copycat league. And if you have the personnel, particularly in the secondary, I'm surprised teams haven't done that more and more. And then you take a guy like Ngakoue, who had a hell of a day, he and Campbell, and you kind of move him around. They moved him both sides. And, at the end of the game, we were chipping like hell with Smitty over there to help him because he wasn't gonna hold up on Ngakoue. So, we've had some warts come out here. I thought Glowinski finally, had some real issues inside. So, like I said, it was a tough day. Now, I will say this. The one thing that you got to do as an analyst, I can point all this stuff out, and that's what it was. I'm giving you the tactical and the emotional part of this game that got away from us. But at the same time, the one thing that you have to do as an athlete, I spoke to the Colts sponsors today. Seems like every time we have one of those bummers, they call me out to do I'm like the relief pitcher. But, the thing is, I said my message last time I spoke to them was October 15th, which was after the 1-5, and my message then was stay the course. I said my message today is amnesia. You have to forget this. As bad as it was, you obviously correct and learn from it and anticipate the same kinds of things coming at you. But, you're 6-6. You're relevant going into December. I think a lot of people would have said if they were 6-6 going into December, we'll take it. Even though it was a bummer, this is still a league that is really balanced. I still can't believe that Baltimore can win out. And I do remember the 2007 Giants, who on December 3rd was exactly 6-6 and won the World Championship. So it can be had. We can talk about this later in the show here, but they face the two biggest, in my opinion, obstacles, the two biggest challenges because of how the teams are playing, how the two teams have come together. Amazingly, especially Dallas, how they have turned it on in the last month. So in the next 2 weeks, we'll define ourselves. We're 5-1 over the last 6 weeks, and we've played bad to mediocre teams, period. That's it. So, it's good. It's good. But now we're stepping up a little bit.
Rick Venturi is brought to you by the District Tap. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I said this earlier, and it's easy for me to sit here and say, hey, this is what I saw, because I sound like a second guesser every day. Every single day I sit down here after 3 o'clock. But I felt that points were going to be, just as you were talking about earlier, with Cody Kessler and the way that the defense had played coming out of the second half of that first game. I thought early yesterday points were going to be at a premium. Therefore, that's why you take them when you can get them. Did you see that early too?
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. First of all, going in, okay, as I said, to me, you have an emotional game plan on a team and you have a tactical game plan on a team. There was two things that you had going. They were emotionally bankrupt, no matter what anybody says. That, firing people, firing guys around you is an emotional trauma on you. Plus, without Fournette, with a new offensive coordinator, Cody Kessler, for a career, okay, taking out the guy that actually plays well against us. That you had all that stuff going, and you had to know that get points early. That's why the 3 was important. And then you got to know if Kessler's the quarterback, there's no Fournette. This team it's as bad an offensive unit as the Bills were, to be honest with you, in that situation. On that day, it is. And so they're not going to score. So but you know that their defense is capable of a big day, which they inevitably had. So you definitely take the first one. The 4th and 2, you take it on the 2-yard line. The second one, I would just run a better play, but I would probably go for it there because that's a real long field goal, and I wouldn't punt there.
So Rick Venturi, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I tell you what, I'm going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back. We'll talk about the situation in which the Colts are in moving forward to Houston coming up on Sunday, too, where basically you need to win out here. I don't think there's any question. Yeah. Look into what the Ravens have done, where they sit right now, and get back to more of yesterday. And I want to talk a little bit about Luck because I spent all week talking about his accuracy and what we had seen over the past 5 weeks. And his accuracy eluded him for a variety of reasons yesterday. And I want you to break that down, if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely.
Other side, Rick Venturi, most important segment you hear all week right here. Absolutely the most informative. We got him, courtesy of the District Tap on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Got any questions, lob them in at JMV 1070 on Twitter. We're on YouTube right now, the 1070 The Fan channel. If you want to look at my face, that and more with Rick. Next. All right, got a quick shout for you right now. Hootie tickets on Twitter. Chris Denary cannot win because he's already got probably 90 tickets. Hootie tickets on Twitter at JMV 1070. And let me go ahead and give you a quick shout because Tony's going to pick the winner, so be nice to Tony. Be nice. Is this their signature song right here? Hold My Hand's their signature song. Hootie and the Blowfish, August 17, 2019, Ruoff Home Mortgage Music Center. They are back. Tickets on Twitter right now.
Ask Denary. He'll be on tomorrow.
Denary's probably already got 50 pair of tickets, but you can win it on Twitter right now. Just be nice to Tony. Back to the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, and brought to you by the District Tap. Rick Venturi rejoins us. Did you have cracked rear view from Hootie and the Blowfish back in the day?
You know what? I always used to kid my son. I used to say, my son had a band. Actually, it's still a good band. That's what she said. They kind of a garage band, but they play all over the city, and they're all guys with day jobs. They're all in their 40s, but he was the opening act down at the Vogue, and I used to tell him, you're too much into this grunge. You got to do some cover of Hootie and those guys, and he used to make fun of me on that. He'd say, I don't need Stones and stuff like that. Now Hootie remade himself as a country guy, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, I was trying to think about how many bands that are out there that went incredibly popular to a punchline and then back to incredibly popular again.
Yeah, he really did remake himself, and then. But when you really study him, he's from South Carolina. He really did have some country roots. It's a pretty amazing story.
It is. All right, let's get back to the Colts and the Jaguars from yesterday. Yeah, but beyond that, this Colts team's got to win out now. I thought that they had one more stumble in them, and I thought maybe that would be coming up next week in Houston. But basically now it really can't be.
Yeah, basically with the Ravens getting the game up on them. That's a tough one, and this was one you just couldn't let get away. That's why I say this is a horrific loss, basically because of when you played this team, who this team was, and what was at stake for you. For goodness sakes, I mean, you stay right with the Ravens, and again they're playing with Lamar. I really like Lamar, and they've got a really good coach in Greg Roman. The guy in Ann Arbor makes the noise, but the guy that does the great coaching job is in Baltimore. And, he's got them going. But I'm not convinced, and I think they've got – don't they have to play like Kansas City? And
let me see off the top of my head here. They have Kansas City. They have Kansas City, Tampa Bay. Kansas City's on the road at Arrowhead. Tampa Bay, I believe, at home. And then the Chargers on the road and the Browns at home to close it out.
That's what I was thinking. The Chargers in Kansas City. So – they're going to lose. They're going to lose a couple. Now the problem is that they have the they may not. The 4 games mean everything. Trust me on this. But you put yourself in a much tougher position here than needed to be, and that's your own fault. I mean, you went down there and you got your butt whipped, and you got it whipped from top to bottom.
Do you think that we'll think about fourth down calls being the theme of this rebuild season of 2018 for the Colts?
Well, in some ways I do, because I think that we squandered a couple opportunities. I just think that sometimes percentages really do matter. The book really does matter. It was written, for a reason. It's based on percentages. I mean, when you go 4th and 4 with a 10% chance of winning the game, that's not a very good. And then you hand it to the other team. And again, I think so much of it today. It's over analytics. It's over this, that. I think in the old days, we coached a little bit more from our gut. We had a little bit more feel for, where was the emotion of the team, what was the emotional game plan and the tactical game plan. And like I said, I mean, in some ways you could say that we've kissed 2 games goodbye with 4th down decisions.
Andrew Luck yesterday, I talked all week about, man, this thing that stands out is his accuracy. And then yesterday, he was all over the map. The decision-making was in question. Now, there was no separation. He was under fire. But, man, there's a lot that was on his shoulders and a lot that transpired that was directed at him to me yesterday. It was a bad day for him.
Yeah, it was a bad day for him. When you're playing in a game like that and all of a sudden the defense is swarming, you cannot afford mistakes. And the first mistake in the game was just inexcusable, and it's as big a thing as turning the tide as there was. It gave him life after a turnover. He wasn't as accurate. The one that he could have hit that was wide open, it was to 15 down on that deep corner.
Was it Dontrell Inman that twisted himself up like a pretzel? That to me wasn't his fault. That was Inman's fault.
Plus, it was Inman, and plus, when I go back and look at the tape, 94 came over the top of Smith so fast it wasn't even funny, and he was running him down. I mean, he was coming to his backside shoulder. So, but the accuracy wasn't there. But what it reminded me of is old days. This has reminded me of when we had offensive line problems, when we had leakage, when teams would get up and press us. Kind of remind me, although they played us a little different because they doubled Hilton, but kind of reminded me of those Patriot games back in the playoffs when they would get up and stuff people, and take you away, and then, manage to get some pressure. And, and these guys did it really without a lot of blitzing. They just, they really got it in. Ngakoue was all over. And there was just leakage, and I mean, there was times that he was forced out. Lately, in the last 6 weeks, when he's moved out, it's because there was coverage there, and he was going to open people up with his legs. Yesterday, there was pressure. I mean, he got pushed out quite a bit, and so I mean, it all broke down. Your quarterback has to play the game of his life, and it wasn't there. And then we go down to the end, and we get that sack off the backside. It's still almost amazing to me.
So Rick Venturi, he joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, brought to you by the District Tap on the north side of Indy. They go away from the running game way too quick in this one, or just not think about it, or was it just Jacksonville going to own it, as you said earlier anyway? It didn't matter.
Jacksonville just took him totally out of the game, to be honest with you. The only time that we really ever made any kind of yardage, was that when and it almost cost them, when they went into that prevent there early, not early, with 2 minutes to go, when we got the ball back the second time, and we got it back the second time with 2 minutes to go and no timeouts, and they played very, very soft. They got away from what they had been doing, and we did get it down, to the 30-yard line, and they really tightened up there on that last series. But, we went bang, bang, bang. We went Hilton. Then we came back and we hit Ebron. We hit Hilton again. I mean, we were really on the move, and then they clamped the door there at the end.
All right, Houston coming up Sunday. We all know what happened over a month ago. They've reeled off what now? 8, 9. Is it 9 consecutive
straight.
wins? 9 consecutive
straight,
wins.
9 straight after that. After that, they're 0-3. We give them the game, and now they've won 9 straight.
It is messed up when you think about it because they were a win away from going away. At 0-4, they go away. They're done.
They're going away. Yep.
It's amazing what has happened since that point in time. What are they doing better that they maybe didn't do earlier this season, Rick?
Well, I think basically they're hitting their stride in all areas, and I think particularly the quarterback. The quarterback struggled early in the season. He didn't come out on fire like he was a year ago. He's really hitting his stride, and he is a real handful, to put it mildly. But they're running the ball so well. I mean, this is an amazing stat, but Miller himself, but this doesn't scare me, believe it or not, on this part of it. Miller has 876, Blue has 446, and Watson has 375. They have 1,695 yards rushing. I mean, they're number 3 in the league in rushing the ball. And, of course, Watson is a lot of that. And the problem with Watson is some of it is designed, and a lot of it is escape. He is just a magnificent escape artist, but he's throwing the ball a lot better. They're very good they have 3 blue chip players. I think Miller is really a blue chip back. I think he's a bit underappreciated. I think he's really, really good. He can hit a home run. He hit a 97-yarder a week ago. He can pick and choose. He can catch the check down, make people miss. You've got a blue chip player there. You have an absolute blue chip player in Hopkins. There's no question about that. And hopefully we have a plan for him. We did not in crunch time in that opening game. I mean, we let him catch the ball to go down and kick the field goal almost unmolested. He is a monster with 80 catches, one of the top 3 receivers in the league, in my opinion.
I think he's the best because it seems like if you show it and if you throw it in his area, he catches it.
Oh, my God. The interesting thing about Miller – the big 3, the interesting thing about Miller, the quarterback, and Hopkins, I've already done most of the work, and I just finished this afternoon with yesterday's game. And so I have like a 5-game template. And, John, when I go to make the cut-ups, for my show, I don't know I don't know what to cut with them. I have like 30 plays on all 3 guys. I mean, it's really amazing. They have a couple role players. I think getting Demaryius Thomas has helped them a little bit. Cote has been out. He's the guy that hurt us. He's a real, legitimate loose play guy. Now, where they got a problem, really, as good as they are in most things, they are 29th in the league in giving up sacks, and that's with a great escape artist. So their offensive line, if you would ever get the lead on them, games where they look bad, John, is when they have to protect the passer. Davenport, Rankin, all up and down that line, they really struggle. I mean, again, listen to that stat. 12th in total offense, 3rd rushing, but 29th in giving up sacks. So that just tells you want to get ahead of these guys, you want to make them play from behind, and then you want to rush like hell. Now, on the other side of the ball, I mean, this is a very good defense. This is a defense that basically is ranked number 3 in the league, 19-6. They're under 20 in terms of points given up. So they're stingy. They're 10th total, 5th on the rush. But the biggest thing is they keep that point total down. And they've got 4 guys to me that are playing great football and a bunch of guys that play pretty well. But JJ, to me, is right back to where he was, 11.5 sacks. He played pretty good last year, but to me, this is J.J. Watt that's in the conversation for the MVP. He's going to be mostly on our left side. He'll move around a lot, but he's a little bit more left-handed now. So, Smitty, if he thought he had it tough against Cameron Wake and Ngakoue, he's going to get another one coming up here this week with 11.5. And then Clowney is one of the most disruptive players. I have a lot of respect for him. I thought in our game, when they needed to play in the fourth quarter and the overtime, it was Clowney, and he is so dangerous, not just off the edge, but when they start moving him around in those packages, which Romeo does well, this guy is an impactful player. Now, there's things you can do to them. I'm not saying that you can't move it, because you can, but understand those two guys are just terrific. Merciless is beginning to come back and beginning to show the form that he once has. He's not with those two guys, but he's dangerous on third down. And they got two defensive backs that are just playing great. Jackson, who was the corner, then he became the safety, the nickel. Kareem Jackson out of Alabama is just absolutely playing just lights out. 11 PBUs, 2 interceptions, 67 tackles, because he's in at the nickel a lot, having a great year. And the kid that has just exploded in the last few weeks, that is their version of Rookie of the Year, is Justin Reed, the safety, just having a terrific year. The rookie from Stanford, he's got like 57 tackles. He's got 3 interceptions and 9 pass breakups. So you got 4 guys there. Now, again, I do think you can do some things to them. I think they're a little bit weak on the edge at times because, what's his name, Watt and Clowney love to swim inside. They really do. And I think you can punch it there. I think you can trap them a little bit. You don't want to block them a lot one-on-one and run right at them, because they'll beat you up into the backfield. And then, obviously you got to protect them. You got to protect that. They have a great radar package on third down where all those guys are moving around. Clowney's liable to be anywhere. You got to be really sharp in protection there. I think that they do have the personnel with Jackson and Joseph to play a lot of press coverage. And if they're smart, that's what they'll do on us. If you play us a lot of zone, you actually make some of our marginal players better. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do after watching that Jacksonville film, because the one spot that they're vulnerable is when they play what we call quarters, which is 4 across. On early downs, unless they change, they play it pretty soft. They play it off in, again, play action, and you can get stuff on them. Now, Joseph has never been able to play Hilton. He's just never been able to play him. I don't know if he's scared of him, if he has a psychological block, but, Hilton has always destroyed him, and so we've got a big advantage going into the game. I think that they'll stay right and left. I just think that's how they believe in playing, but Jackson would be a tougher matchup, because I think we can really make a living. This is, Joseph is no Ramsey, that's for sure.
Hey, quick before I let you go, Does a game like yesterday magnify the need for a guy like Le'Veon Bell on this Colts offense?
Well, what it does is it magnifies the need for playmakers. You can
not necessarily that one.
Yeah, well, it can. No, you think I'd turn my back on Le'Veon Bell?
Oh, I was just asking.
No. I mean, I don't.
Because I already have. I said no, but
Le'Veon Bell is now. If you're never going to bring anybody that you can't handle, then you're not going to bring in Ramsey. You're going to pass a lot of great players. Le'Veon Bell, for whatever the reputation is right now, is head and shoulders an impactful running back. He can do things that no other back in this league can even think about doing, with the exception of maybe the young kid Barkley. Also, what we need is an Amari Cooper type of guy. We need to get a top flight other outside receiver, because what Jacksonville said is we can take your passing game away by simply playing man-to-man press, and you can't beat us. And where they did a much better job in this game than the first game is when we did get in the bunches and the stacks, they did a really good job of sorting out. They learned from that first game, because they gave us 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns came free of charge in that first game. People forget that. And they did a much better job. But in terms of playmaking people, absolutely we need to do that.
Rick Venturi, you can see him every week in segmented form at Colts.com. Offense, defense, and then keys to the win. Again, you can see that First Down with Rick Venturi is at Colts.com. Brought to you by the District Tap on the north side, as always, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. There is nothing better, win, lose, or draw, than having you on at 5 o'clock right here every Monday. Let me
John,
tell you.
I look forward to Mondays. I really do.
Seems like I'm sucking up there, and I'm really not sucking up. I'm just telling you the truth.
We do it unfiltered, and it's fresh in everybody's mind, and we're ready to roll.
I was really disappointed yesterday. I mean, full disclosure.
To be honest. I tell you, the only thing that, I had to get myself up to make that speech today, and I had to, kind of look at the bright side in that venue. And, the thing is, if people would have said, you're 6-6, with 4 to go, we'd have taken it in July, let's admit it.
Yeah.
And so, now it just happens that we define ourselves in the next 2 weeks because we go from we go from GT to GP.
You're awesome, my brother. Thank you.
All right, you too. Good
Rick Venturi on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. Quick break. We'll wrap it up and get you set for Colts Roundtable Live.